Happy Thursday. Welcome to the Scoop World Order. Huge week of recruiting going on, official visits coming up this week. We're going to have a slew of new commitments. I think it's coming. Ross Bjork also took the dais for about 70 minutes today, and he was razor sharp. A guy that I'm proud is leading this program. We're going to go to new heights with this guy. He's fantastic. And we'll talk a little bit about what he talked about, initiatives, kind of the new landscape of college football. We've got the right guy, and it's exciting. And I think he's a beast. So we'll talk about that. We'll take your questions as well. As always, if you guys enjoy our content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, and also click that little alert bell. Again, we are on the drive to 37,000 YouTube subscribers. We got like about 70 yesterday. So thank you guys that have been clicking and subscribing. Send it to your friends, text them, post it on your Facebook. Whatever you guys can do, it's completely free. It's the best Ohio State content in existence, the most viewed, the number one show by far. I mean, most days, if you add up all of our competitors' shows versus ours, they lose. So it's that good. So again, I just appreciate you guys for making us the number one show. And it's not even close at this point. So thank you for that. Also, if you could subscribe to our Apple podcast feed and Spotify, again, even if you don't listen to the traditional podcasts on your phone, it's a huge help for us. Again, all of these add up. All of these help us dramatically. Leaving us 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify also help us tremendously. So again, we appreciate that. That's completely free. It's like basically, if you guys left us like a tip, except it doesn't cost anything. It's a really nice gesture of you guys to help us out, and we appreciate that so very much. So with that being said, Nevada, the YouTube drive has gone stupendously, and big kudos to you for really pushing it on BuckeyeScoop.com. But we're cranking to get to 40,000. That's kind of our goal by the start of the football season. So, do you have anything to add to my ask of the crew?
No, we'll have something fun. I don't know what it's going to be, but we'll do something fun for 40,000. But yeah, for those that have been here since the beginning, I can remember when it was 1,000 and then 5 and 10, and when we got to 25, that seemed like a million. So yeah, we're coming up on 40,000, and we just really appreciate all the great support for this show. It's been just a ball doing this. This thing's such a juggernaut now. It's something an integral part of my day every day, best part of my day every day. I look forward to it, and just excited. So yeah, if you can hit that subscribe button, help us out. Let's get to 40,000 and let's go.
Yeah, and we're gonna do a little bit of a recruiting rundown today. Again, our recruiting staff has been excellent. We've had legs on the ground at camp each day. We've got Funky Buckeye, Uncle Buck, like our Bill Greene. I mean, we have an incredible, intel gathering crew. A lot of inside stuff. Obviously Devin and the Buckeye boys and Mello. They're integral for what we do. Shout out to them. They've had some incredible interviews on their channel. Make sure you subscribe to their stuff as well, the Buckeye Boys. And it's boys with a Z. So make sure when you type it in, you go to the right spot. But it's been astounding how good the coverage has been. And I'm so proud of the team because they're aggressive and they want the real scoop. And I had a big phone call right as I was getting on. I said, hey, I gotta call you after the show. So again, the phones never stop. I have to put it on do not disturb during this thing because otherwise I'll be getting pelted by some of the stuff that's going on. But yeah, I will. I'm sure I'll have some stuff for you guys tomorrow on that call because I can't wait to do that. But Nevada, let's talk a little about the momentum of Ohio State, the recruiting. Obviously, these camps are a great time. They're evaluating. Some rare seniors are getting evaluated, but it's mostly juniors getting into the sophomores and even some 2028s, which are really young kids. A couple of those got offered today. What are you gleaning, and what is the staff? Because again, Nevada and we're kind of the overseers and insiders and that type of thing. We've got a great recruiting staff, so we talk to them constantly, and we have sources on that too. But our recruiting staff has really been breaking a lot of stuff. But what are some of the things that we're hearing from yourself and the crew?
Well, it's supposed to be a trifecta of announcements, and it's anybody's guess. We've got kind of a big board of Aaron Thomas, the great or soon to be great, greatly underrated offensive tackle. Some people think this is a top 50, top 100 guy, and dad was an NFL player, great player at FSU. No, Charles Bentley thinks he's one of the best offensive linemen in the country, and he should be in any moment right now. And then you've got the pair from Glenville in terms of Sincere Johnson and JJ Paris. Obviously, Perez is yeah, a commit to Florida, soon to change, soon to be a Buckeye, since they're the smashing linebacker out of there who's going to be a good player at Ohio State. And then you've got Drew Evers, the interior lineman, who everybody's kind of cranked up about. So look, I mean, Ohio State recruiting has been such a tear because typically what Ohio State has is they have one recruiting group or maybe other, at various times we've been running back you, linebacker you, defensive back you, wide receiver you, whatever you want to call it. And that's been kind of, the plow horse, as it were, for recruiting. We do well in those areas and other areas maybe not as well, but now we're hitting on all cylinders. I mean, you literally could make an argument for Ohio State being fill in the blank you for just about any position group. Between our existing players, our committed players, and our players in the NFL. I mean, Ohio State is just such a complete program, offensively, defensively, and that's what happens when you have all killers. In your recruiting positions, and that's what Ohio State has right now. They've got guys that can recruit at the highest levels, as part of their 10 accountable coaches, up and down, on the defense side, on the offensive side, on the special team side. And right now, coming off a national championship, coming off record fundraising for the program, coming off, Coach Day, establishing himself as the best coach in college football, signing a long-term contract. I mean, we've just got all the arrows are pointing up right now, and we're reaping the harvest as Ohio State fans. As every day it's another quality recruit jumping on. But I'm expecting at least three, maybe four. I put the over under at 3.5 for this weekend. By Sunday, that we have announced commitments to Ohio State, and I think I'm probably going to play the over.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of obviously there's insane momentum with the program right now. I think that a lot of these recruits, again, you talk about offensive tackle, who's a really a stud that Charles Bentley loves. He's a great guy to project to the next level. And again, I know that sounds like the word project, but it's like I tell you guys, every offensive lineman is a project. They all are. Like Paris Johnson, who's the most polished offensive lineman in the last 15 years to come out of Ohio, still didn't start as a freshman. I mean, didn't even contribute. Played guard his second year, and then his left tackle his third year. And obviously, he's in line to be a tremendous player for the Arizona Cardinals. He'll likely be a captain this year, and he'll be getting a huge extension when it's time for him to do that. But he still, it still took him a year to make an impact, and he enrolled early and was as physically gifted and as emotionally mature as I've ever seen at Ohio State for that age. Outside of Orlando Pace, obviously, he started as a true freshman and dominated the whole way until he was the number one pick. Those guys don't come along very often, but I always, when you're evaluating, can a kid play here, especially with tackles? A lot of times with tackles, man, you're dealing with basketball players, tight ends, converting a defensive end, or because you need a different level of athleticism to play offensive tackle at Ohio State or a major college. You got to have a certain amount of speed. Length is tremendous if you have it. I was 6'4", so I had to be a little more gritty to get the job done. I wish I was 6'7", but obviously that's why I married a tall wife, because I wasn't gonna make the same mistake that my dad made, marrying my short little 5'2" mom. But hey, it is what it is. I love you, mom. But it's there's a reason why my wife's 6 feet tall, is because my kids are gonna be pass blockers, because pass blocking is what gets you paid in the league. And it's something that's a lot easier to do if you've got long levers. But I think that the momentum of the staff, and again, I give Ross Bjork all the credit, because he said, Ryan, basically, and again, you just look at how much money we're spending on our coaching staff now, not just the top 10 guys who all, we have to have the highest paid staff in the country. But I'm talking about like the auxiliary coaches, having 2 extra offensive line coaches plus a grad assistant. Again, and this isn't that long ago, but in 2012, it was just me and Ed Warner. There were 2 of us. There weren't 4 of us. And, when you have double the manpower, especially when you've got 2, I think really highly of Charlie Dickey and Marcus Johnson. You've got 2 guys, as I've said in the last few days, like from different areas of the country, different recruiting backgrounds, different recruiting relationships. and you can pull all that together with what Tyler Bowen has done, I think it's exceptional. And then you look at you're doing on the D line as well. You know, you've got a kid from UCLA, kid from UAB, so he's down in Alabama. Those are great areas to recruit. So when you land a defensive end from LA, and our assistant line coach coached at UCLA and he played at Oregon, like I don't think that that's like a total coincidence. Now, obviously, he's coming to play for Larry Johnson at Ohio State, but I think any intel that you can glean from like the assistant coach's assistants is huge, and that's manpower that you can't replicate any other way than making a commitment to paying. You know what I mean? Like Charlie Dickey's not making 50 grand. I mean, he's probably making, I bet, $200,000 to be another line coach. And I bet Marcus Johnson's probably in that range, 200 to 250. So that's basically, I mean, there wasn't long ago in 2011 where our offensive coordinators were making $300,000, which I know that is a crap ton of money. Trust me, I get that. But Brian Hartline's making like 2.5 million now, and our defensive coordinator is making 3 million. So it's a 10x in about 13 years. So it's not, again, that takes a serious commitment from Ross Bjork. And again, with that commitment comes great expectations. Obviously, Ryan rang the bell and got us our national championship. So he's living good for a pretty good while. But I think that's the recruiting has never been better. But I think that part of it is we've got a lot of energy. We've got a very young staff. Young kids, can relate to these recruits. They're more used to the pace of keeping up on Instagram and Twitter and texting these kids incessantly, more so than older coaches. Which is why I think that Ryan trended to it. I think I would bet this is the youngest coaching staff in Ohio State history this year. Because outside of Larry, who's like kind of the outlier, and Coach Walt's a little bit older, but otherwise, man, James is below 40, Hartline's below 40. Your offensive line coach is 34 ish. Tight ends coach is, I don't think he's 30 yet. Carlos Laughlin might be mid 40s. I mean, it's young. I mean, normally we've got a couple 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds, but not anymore. Nevada, what are your thoughts on this? I think that there was this moment in time in recruiting around 2011, 2012, and I was of course working in the Woody Hayes, and this is when Facebook was starting to grow in terms of a recruiting resource, and Twitter was growing as a recruiting resource, and frankly our old staff just didn't. It was like they didn't want to do it, they didn't care to do it. And I remember there was a day and time when I was looking up coaches on Facebook. I was looking up like Harry Heastand and basically every offensive line coach in the SEC, and they all had Facebook profiles, and they were all friends with all the kids that were top 100 O linemen, and our guys just didn't want to do it. And I was like, guys, like we need to do this because this is the new wave, and Urban was leading the charge because these guys would find loopholes and they would figure out that, hey, there's no law that says you can't tweet message a kid 100 times a day or Facebook message a kid 100 times a day. You couldn't text them at all. So for some reason, in the NCAA's eternal stupidity, a text message was banned, but a Facebook message was unlimited at any time of the year. There might have been a few no contact times, but the rest of the time, man, I mean, Urban had those coaches 500 tweets a day to Percy Harvin or whatever, and not that the kids cared, but sometimes that volume is impressive to, in my opinion, the wrong kid. But it worked a lot, and we got a lot of kids because we were so aggressive on it. But what are your thoughts on the youth of the staff, the recruiting? And our recruiting's always been good, but I think that there's even more room to be better with the expanded staff and the general youth of the staff.
Well, look, there's no question that Ohio State is kind of embracing new approaches across the board, and the expanded staffing. Alabama and the SEC was way ahead of us on that stuff in terms of the use of consultants, analysts, and tactician, whatever you want to call it. And now that they've gone to kind of unlimited on-field coaching, Ohio State's kind of leaned right into it, and as you said, getting younger guys, so you've got kind of the nice mix of the elder statesmen, the grizzled veterans that have been there with the long resumes, and the youngsters that are coming up, that can do a lot of the I'll say grunt work, and lay kind of the foundation for some of the stuff that we're doing in recruiting. But it's going beyond recruiting. I don't know if you just saw they announced that I'll get the name of the department wrong, but it was something like the Department of Analytics and Secret Service. It was basically Ohio State forming like an analytics department for football and to look at stuff. And yeah, I had to chuckle because my first thought when I saw it was the Connor Stallions thing, because that's kind of how Connor Stallions marketed himself on his LinkedIn page before all this went so horribly wrong. Like he was some sort of counterintelligence agent or whatever it was. But Ohio State is finally, welcome to 2025, finally leaning into analytics full time, where they're actually going to form like their own department that's going to have analytics and analytics program. And all I can say is long overdue. I mean, how long ago did the movie Moneyball come out? I mean, it's not like people aren't aware of analytics, but Ohio State is finally, Ohio State's got some of the finest statisticians in the world. You're working at the university, and they finally fully have an analytics department. I don't know if you have that anywhere online. They can find out exactly what the name of that thing was, but I thought it was so interesting that they're finally doing it, because up until now they've been using consultants. People have come and made presentations to them. We've had a number of nuggets on different analytical tools that they use in terms of tendencies, breaking tendencies, identifying tendencies from other schools, etc. But you know now they're actually going to have a full-time department doing it, and I just thought, wow, what a great thing. But again, you probably something they should have had 5 or 10 years ago, but again, better late than never.
Are you talking about the Center for Sports Intelligence and Strategy?
That's the one. That's the one. That's what we're talking about.
I was trying to think of an acronym. Is it like CSIS? So we call it
It's like
CIS?
it's like
CSIS?
CSI. It's like
Yeah.
CSI.
It's like CSI,
CS,
but for Ohio State.
CSI Columbus.
Oh, it's a group that'll equip our coaches with more information, context, and clarity to make even better decisions. We already have the best sports science team that equips our coaches with data on training, recovery, and performance. This unit will work in tandem with our sports scientists as well as our business and NIL strategy teams to give coaches additional data and actionable insights. So, I mean, our business and
Now,
NIL strategy teams. Go ahead.
Kurt, I've got an idea, and I'm just spitballing here. Okay, I'm just spitballing.
Oh my God.
But how about if we send Grandma Barton to different places armed with a handheld camera, and she can film the games, send it back to the CSI group. They break it down and use it for real-time sign analytics. What do you think?
Well, she's like 5'2", so she'd be shooting the camera in the back of somebody's back the whole time. And plus, she's like, she'd get tired in the middle of it and probably take a nap on the bench. And I don't know if she'd be the most ill equipped. I know that Funky Buckeye would be gung ho and ripper and be ready to go, because that kid's to go get it. That's a Funky Buckeye joint right there. Funky,
Okay,
go climb the tower and get go get the sports lens and go zoom in on the defensive coordinator for Michigan for the entire game. See if we can pick his signs. So yeah, so that's a no.
no, okay, okay. I was just thinking, while we're bundling, because you got Father's Day coming up, and like the little Father's Day gift you can give to yourself would be, like you said, tickets to that Illinois Akron game or something like that. You give to Grandma and have her go record. And I would like to equip your mom with like a camera, see what she could come up with. I think it'd be amazing. That'd be amazing content for the YouTube channel. You know what I'm saying? She probably
It would
dropped
be
the camera, but
it would be like it would be like one of those things where like if you like equipped a camera on like a dog to see what it did all day, and the dog just like walks in the kitchen, like takes a dump, and then goes in your bedroom and lays down on the bed all day. Then you're like, oh boy, I'm gonna upload this video. I can't wait to see what this is. You're like, that wasn't very good. It's like eating its food, that it goes over and throws it up on the couch, and then goes and lays in your bed the rest of the day. You're like, man, I thought he was going to be like throwing his ball up in the air or chasing the other
uh,
dogs that live there. It's like, nope. He just left a steamer, and he's deaf and he can't hear you saying, Chico, Chico, no. And
yeah,
he just
Yeah,
just
he
letting it
was headed.
rip.
He was headed for the forest. That's where he was
Uh,
going.
I know. But I she would not be ideal. Like, I mean, Joe Drain would be great at it, and Funky. Joe Drain and Funky would be like, they'd be like Thelma and Louise, man. They'd be some 1-2 bang up combo right there in
T-
terms of just
take us right off the cliff. Right off the cliff. There. It's like, ooh.
that's right. Um, what are you getting for Father's Day? 'Cause I got a great gift potentially for you for Father's Day.
Well, yeah, I don't. I think I'm going to get a golf range finder, one of those range finders. The thing is, though, our club has got range finders on the cart, so it's not as effective as it used to be before a cart. Yeah, I think got the range finders, but I think I'm going to get a golf range finder. That's what I'm going to get.
Because I was thinking like a great gift for you would be an Ohio State football media credential because Jerry Amig is going to that big pile of dung in the sky and he's out in March. So
Oh
and
gosh, yeah.
I know you live in Los Angeles, so I know you'd be using that all the time, you know. And I live
Uh,
45 minutes away, so I'd rather I would rather go back to county jail than go sit at one of those press conferences because even Ross, man, Ross is great, but man, that was 70 minutes you never get back in your life listening to him, you know, talking about NIL and sports science and the rest of it. And I'm just like, oh my God, please kill me. But I actually grinded through that entire thing. And there were some very interesting facets because to circle back to this thing, um, one of the big things that they talked about with the sports intelligence and strategy is that there's this new salary cap and there's this new, you know, deal where, you know, you have to ration out your money and you have to do it in a similar manner to an NFL team. So again, I think that that's fair. I think that that's smart. I think that some positions are premium positions, offensive tackle being one of them. Quarterback is the ultra premium position. Obviously, that's why they get paid the most in the NFL. But I think that there will be a reflection in the pay that'll be similar to an NFL roster. Like a good NFL team, their quarterback's usually the highest paid guy, and then you've got maybe like a one-star receiver, and you know you got a pass rusher, cornerback, and but Ross talked about how like it was an advantage for having Matt Patricia on the staff. And again, when we hired Matt Patricia, I thought that was a grand slam home run. And then now in this new cap era, it's even more because you know he was constructing rosters, and obviously he doesn't have final say as a coordinator, as a head coach. But you know he was very familiar with, hey, this is what a good roster looks like, and the guy who's the king of that is Bill Belichick. I mean, Bill Belichick has a spreadsheet basically listing this is how you build a great team. Like you have to have this so many players that are this age. They got to be, you know, in the NFL, it's like, you know, they're going to be 25 years old. They got to be peak performance, Pro Bowl level, all pro level players. Quarterback's going to have these traits. You know, these guys, I mean, it's really, you know, I've watched a bunch of documentaries on him and it's fascinating how he breaks down a roster down to the final dude on the roster. But Matt Patricia is adding a lot of value outside of just coordinating the defense. You know, he's been a great recruiter. He's been super active. And now he's helping Mark Pantoni kind of figure out how to build the roster correctly because, again, you know, you don't want to when there's a finite amount of money and you know you're trying to build a roster, there's only certain ways you can do it. And I thought that was really fascinating. That's something they're working on it now because you know the days of just blindly spending as much money as possible, those are officially over, which I think is great because now I think that it's going to be a lot more of a fair and balanced cap. But what were your thoughts on that? 'Cause again, I think that was probably the most fascinating thing about how they have to kind of parcel out and project. Okay, this is Jeremiah Smith. He's a sophomore. He makes this much. Okay, next year he's coming back. We gotta bump him up, and then this guy falls off, and then this guy could be a good starter, and he could be all Big Ten this year. But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I had a few takeaways. One was, Ross Bjork talking about record fundraising for Ohio State, which is great news. Two, talking about construction of a new Woody Hayes Athletic Center or recondition, whatever you want to call it. Getting that done finally after decades of ignoring the fact that was so desperately needed. I mean, we don't even probably have going to have the nicest facilities in the state of Ohio. I think Cincinnati's going to have a nicer facility than we do, and which is kind of crazy. And then third was just the overall thing of wow, Ross Bjork is so impressive, and wow. Gene Smith was so spectacularly unimpressive for so long. And what a difference and what a breath of fresh air it is to have an AD like Ross Bjork, a president like Ted Carter. I mean, you really feel like the adults are finally back in charge, and that we're done with the whatever you want to call it type of situation that we were in before with Gene, where we were kind of held hostage by this guy and his mediocrity, because everything he did was mediocre at Ohio State. And um, you know, I think he lacked the vision of an Andy Geiger, and he certainly lacked just the raw intelligence of a guy like Ross Bjork. And that's what you need to navigate this ever changing environment. I mean, 2025, it's just so much more challenging. I mean, this is stuff that Urban Meyer is great at coach. Mount Rushmore of great coaches, Panther, but he never had to deal with this. He never had to deal with salary cap issues and NIL and collectives and all this stuff. I mean, he just didn't. It was a different time. I mean, he won and won everywhere he went in a different time. But man, the challenges these guys are facing now are they're unique, they're unprecedented, and you need to have guys at the very top that are that are forward thinking, that you can fundraise like crazy, which is really one of Ross Burke's fortes, and just gives you that confidence that we're going to get it done. And that was really my big takeaway: is thank goodness that we have a serious upgrade in the sports administration department of Ohio State, and that's really what we need to meet the challenges of football in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you know there were some seismic shifts that happened when Ross Bjork finally took over. One of them was Ross fully backed the foundation, which again I thought was a critical move. And again, I was out on an island, and so because we're partners and we talk about this stuff, and it's like we wasted 2 years, with cohesion, which didn't raise any money, and then 1870 shows up, and they have all of the morons that are the credentialed media that are so scared to not speak the party line, saying, oh, now we have 1870 and they're a for profit and this is going to be amazing. And now we've got all of these geniuses, and we've got Todd Markowitz, who's a great guy, and he got fired because he didn't raise enough money. Because again, he doesn't have the contacts to raise money. And then all the other guys that were in charge of that, they slowly got rid of, these idiots that they had trying to sell it. They fired poor Tyvis Powell, who's a great guy, because again, they didn't have the contacts to raise serious money. I'm talking $25 million. So you can't just go knock on doors and do raffles and fundraisers and video content of Zen Mikulski playing Xbox or something and expect people to pay for that. But that was their thing, and I knew that thing was like that pig on that escalator that's going up right before they turn him into a ham sandwich. That's what that was. And I called that from the jump when all of the morons and all the other sites were talking about, oh, this is going to be amazing. And now you have an adult running it. And, and Brian Schottenstein took all this shrapnel from those morons because they were forced to be attacked by Gene Smith. And again, it's something where I was sitting there and I'm just like, and I get it. And it's a political thing. I totally understand. Again, like I know who those two sides support. And so they're not going to support Brian. And then Bill Lewis joins him, and I've known Bill for a long time. Tommy Heilman. I mean, all I did is just look at the roster of who's on the boards of each. And I'm not talking about Urban Meyer and Terry McLaurin and Donald Duck and all these other guys that they put on there as figures. I'm talking about the real hitters in Columbus that have serious money that are going to donate to it. And so when I saw everybody lining up on one team that looked like the Monstars, and then I looked at the other team, and it was the Maslin Perry, third grade youth basketball team on the other side. I was like, well, this isn't going to end well. But they still support 1870, and it just drove me crazy because I'm like, if you would have just picked one collective, the one that had the entire roster that was supporting it, then we could have been way ahead, and it would have been like paddling uphill. But again, the foundation had to go to war, and they had to go raise a ton of money to pay JJ and pay Caleb Downs and pay Will Howard and everybody else, and it's like. And they did it. To Brian's credit, he did it, and so did Bill. And it's a lot of work. And honestly, it's a tough sell. That's the other thing. Is it's like, it's not hard to, hey, do you want to donate to this so that we can, fund our NIL? It's like it's It's not an easy sell. You're not selling iPhones there. So it was a lot of work by those guys. And I commend them because they kept their head down, they grinded, they paid all their tabs, which is great. And now they're part of this thing. And again, I have no idea why the 1870 guys are part of it because they didn't do anything and they folded. They haven't even tweeted since after the national championship game. So it's like, again, but that's Ross Bjork immediately recognized who was bringing in the money. Because at the end of the day, I don't care. All I care about is who's productive. That's all I care about. Are you productive? Are you paying your tabs? Yeah. And there was one that did, and it's the one that emerged. And again, I was saying it, and people were saying all kinds of nasty things about me. And I'm like, well, it sucks being right all the time, but that's why even people that can't stand Nevada and I watch our show every night because again, they know who has the goods, and that's the difference. And again, I don't care if there's people that don't like me or they say, "Oh, look at this stuff that he says," because nobody that doesn't like me is ahead of me. That's the thing that you got to realize. They're way behind us, and again, they're so obsessed with us that it just puts them in a further hole. But again, that's the great thing about what we do. And that's why you guys tune in because you guys want to know what's really going on. We had the humping technician break that Jerry Emig was out last week, and then there were people that refuted that and said there's no plans that he is out yet. And then today the press release comes out, Jerry Emig is out. They're gonna let him hang around until March and do whatever. And they're down to the finalists of the new SID. So again, I haven't heard anybody else reporting that, but we've got that. So again, and we know them. So again, the thing about having sources is it's fun, especially when you're not enslaved by people that don't let you go with the information. So, Nevada, as we move into the summer, in the Matt Patricia stuff, I think that Ryan Day has really gotten efficient at evaluating the coaches he's brought on staff because I think Tyler Bowen has been a home run. I think surrounding him by two stone cold offensive line coaches is a huge help. Matt Patricia, again. There were people that were critical of the Ross Bjork hire. I thought it was fantastic just because I talked to people that I know at A&M and I know a humongous A&M donor flew on his private jet before. And literally he's like, I really like Ross. And when that guy told me he liked him, I was like, yep, it's okay. I'm good. And then, you look at Matt Patricia, I don't want to say I was astonished that he would come and take a college job when he has no college background, but he's unemployed and $3 million is $3 million. And, he's a personable guy. I think he's a really funny, he's a sharp guy. He's funny. I think he'd be, a guy that would be good to play for just because I think he's a really tough guy. Like, I think he's going to be tough on these kids and world-class preparer. But I think that he's a guy that's been around Bill Belichick. Again, when you get fired, it speaks, it really speaks to a degree, like when a guy like Bill Belichick immediately rehires you to be his I don't know if he rehired him to be the offensive line coach or the offensive coordinator. I mean, he was obviously the defensive coordinator before he went to Detroit, but Bill Belichick immediately wanted him back on his staff, which told me all I needed to know. But what are your thoughts as the staff evolves and as we get into the summer?
Well, look, there were people that last year we had people questioning whether Will Howard was any good. We had people questioning whether Ross Bjork was a good hire, and it's the same people that were questioning Matt Patricia. Or Chip Kelly. We had just Chip Kelly any good? Jim Knowles, is Jim Knowles any good? Matt Patricia. I mean, Matt Patricia, and I've said this before, but I've done a lot of research and I can't find a. He is the only person in the world that's ever been an offensive coordinator in the NFL, a defensive coordinator in the NFL, and an NFL head coach. I don't think there's ever been anybody that's ever done it, ever. And that's the guy that we have as the defensive coordinator for the Ohio State Buckeyes. So look, Ryan, and I harken back to the days after the Michigan loss. We lose to Michigan. And what does Ross Bjork do? Ross Bjork steps up and gives Ryan a vote of confidence. Now, people can question, was that a sincere one? Was that a give him a vote of confidence and then lop his head off if something bad happens or whatever? I guess we'll never know. But Ross Bjork stepped into the fire from when that was happening and gave him a vote of confidence. Showing that he believed he had his guy, he believed he had the right guy, and then they go on this crazy streak for the championship. And it was funny, we had a thing we were talking about the loss today on the message board, and for some people. and at the time, it was certainly one of the worst losses in Ohio State history. But when you stack it up on the losses, like normally the bad losses in Ohio State history cost us national championships. You know, 1969 Michigan, 1998 Michigan State. I mean, you can go through the list of 2015 Michigan State. They cost us national champ shots at national championships or actual national championship games. This one actually propelled us to a national championship game. And I think it's kind of crazy how that worked out. But Ross had the vision to go with Ryan Day. And then Ryan Day, his big challenge for Ryan Day is protecting his staff, keeping his staff, protecting his staff. How do you navigate the staff waters when you have success? Because it's much more difficult to do it when you're having success than when you're having failure. When you're having failure, your coaches want to stay and be there. When you're having success, everybody's poaching your coaches. So what happens? Jim Knowles gets poached. Chip Kelly gets poached. Brian Hartline's, not threatening to leave, but you're in danger of losing your ace recruiter in terms of Brian Hartline. What does he do? Threads the needle, promotes Brian Hartline to offensive coordinator, goes out and gets Matt Patricia, a Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator, as your defensive coordinator, solidifies your staff, brings it up. You bring your guys in, you bring Drew Essler in as your quarterback. I mean, I thought it was just unbelievable, or not Drew Essler. What did I say? Drew Essler.
Billy Fessler.
Billy Fessler, Drew Essler, Billy Fessler. But I mean, it's crazy how he was able to do that. And like, I think back on how much staff turmoil was going on at one time. There was like six different positions that were all in danger, and there was a chance of a mass staff exodus. There was a chance for OG Walt to walk. There was a chance for Matt Greer to follow yeah, Jim Knowles out the door. Yeah, um, you lost your offensive line coach to the NFL. You lost Chip Kelly to the NFL. I mean, there was a chance we could go in with like Brian Hartline was threatening to leave, or you could have been poached for someone else. You could have been replacing like 8 of 10 guys or 9 of 10 guys. Instead, he stepped in, solidified it, and I don't know if he upgraded every position, but he at least solidified every position. And that might have been singularly Ryan Day's greatest accomplishment in this offseason, was the way that he managed the staff, and that it's given us a chance to you know hit recruiting hard as we've been kind of going through on the recruiting. So our recruiting continues along at the high pace, and that's why we're talking about all these recruits coming in, and that's why we're so bullish on the 2025 season, because you were able to solidify the staff, you're able to keep the train going, you're able to keep things going. And when you talk to the players, they're talking about how they haven't missed a beat, that there's no turmoil here. There's new thoughts, new energy, new excitement, and new approaches to things. But the train keeps rolling, and again, all credit in the world to Ryan Day on the thing, and all credit to Ross Burke and Ted Carter for believing him and keeping this thing going.
Yeah, and for our athletics department raising $80 million, breaking every fundraising record, which obviously, the football team is the catalyst for raising that kind of money. Like when you win a national championship, man, and you get those, you get Keith Wandell, and you get some, you get the shot and scenes down on the field, and they're in the confetti and they're hugging their family on the field. Like, I mean, that's the magic of when you win that game, is you go snag all those big donors, and Dan Cloran gets them down there and say, like, you want me to take a photo? Hey, I'll text you the photo. Then I'm going to ask you for, $5 million too. This is the most expensive photo you'll ever get. But that's real. And again, when people get to live that moment with the, I mean, Nevada, you're a huge donor, and you've got your building, which has now been turned into a rock with your sign, with your name on it. It's still there. But and you were there with your family. I know it's like the sword and the stone. There's like a little Nevadabuck thing,
I
But
love
I know, and we actually had had someone from our meetup come and bring the photo of the Rock, which is that's the greatest thing of all time. It was like what's the thing I'm thinking about, where you have to go, there's a list of stuff you have to go find, you have to take a photo of it and bring
like a
it.
scavenger hunt.
Yes, except there was only one thing. Can someone find Nevada Bucks Rock? And it was still there, which was amazing.
He found it, man. It was there, the rock.
I didn't, and I promise you, I looked really hard, really hard. If it had been
Oh
on a
yeah.
Friday,
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Oh yeah.
it might have been on a Friday afternoon, but I don't know. But I'm just, but I'm just saying, man. I love the direction of the program. I love that, you know, they got the partnership with Learfield going now, and you know they're gonna have Brian and Bill Lewis still be part of the show, and you know, and run it. Because again, you know, the one thing that Ross talked about, because this is the most important part to fundraising, is you need the contacts. You need the people that can introduce themselves to Ross and say, hey, I got a buddy who wants to buy a field suite, or hey, I got a buddy who wants to go to practice and meet Ryan Day and he'll pay 50 grand to do it. I mean, those are the kind of people you got to have. You know, again, I was talking to, you know, one of the biggest Ohio State donors, and they wrote, you know, like $5 million, you know, for the new Woody Hayes renovation. And, you know, Gene thought it was going to be about 200 grand, and Ross, he's going to get it for 120 for the same blueprint, same thing. You know, they're going to blow up the one practice field closest to the Fawcett Center. They're going to expand the weight room. They're going to make the building functional, because again, I've said for years, like, look, there isn't an NFL facility that I'd been in, and I was in, you know, I played for 7 teams and I was all over the place. Every single one has a meeting room for the position group, and then the coaches have a separate office where they can do work. The Woody Hayes, it's all one. So like your offensive line meeting room is also your, you know, your offensive line workroom. And again, why does that matter? Well, you know, because sometimes you're talking about these kids, you're evaluating them, and like, you know, if some kid wants to come in and watch film and sit in the Woody and watch, or if a group of guys want to, you can't get your work done. You know, we had times like that where it's like, we're like, damn, I wish we had our own offices so we could actually, like, you know, evaluate some personnel, watch recruiting. Because the offensive line position room or wide receiver position room, that should always be open for the players to be able to watch film, always. And there shouldn't be coaches working in there. And it's been like that for 25 years. And again, you know, at smaller programs, sure, you got to do that kind of stuff. But the fact that we've been doing that at Ohio State is just hilarious at this point. Because when I see these new videos, like when you look at the Cincinnati football facility, they have separate coaching offices, that's how you're supposed to do it. You know, it's like day one stuff. And so that's, you know, adding a level of functionality. And then, you know, whoever designed the original building, like, you can't build a second floor with the way the roof is what I've been told. Now they might figure out a magical way to do it somehow, but you know, the tough part about football is it never stops. So there's not like a time where you can hit pause for 6 months and go build something new, but that's kind of where they're at. So you know, Ross, you know, when you have the construction company presence that's in Columbus, you have Elford, Turner, I mean, you have monster companies that have huge footprints here, Kokosing. Like, it's just not that hard to go to those guys and say, hey, you know, would you want to do like an in-kind thing, or, you know, hey, would you, if we give you 20 million of it or whatever, you know, for this piece of it, bid it out, you know, could we get some, you know, get a little bit back, you know, and we'll give you a sign, or it'll be this weight room is built by Elford or something like that for eternity, or give you field pass. I don't know. There's just a lot of, you know, you could print as many field passes as you want. So I mean, you could print those out and, you know, host them on a golf outing at Scarlet and Gray. I don't know. There's a lot of ways to get creative that save coinage when you're trying to get a project done. And Ross is really creative about that. Now, you know, in general, in the past, when they did the renovation in 2007, I know they used Ferguson Construction, and that's a great company. And they, you know, they did the whole thing, and it was a huge upgrade, because we got the weight room that they have now, and new hallway and a lot of stuff. But you know, a lot of the bones kind of stayed the same. They just made it a lot nicer. But we were in the Ernie Biggs, you know, old crappy weight room for the longest time while they redid the locker room. So, but yeah, it's exciting times, man. I think Ross is wicked smart. Him and Ted Carter, I think, have done some incredible work, and I think that this is a platinum era for Ohio State. I mean, I'm enjoying every second of it, because again, the benefit to being me, and all of you guys were alive for the most part in 11. Like I was part of a 6 and 7 team, so when we have a run like this, I'm enjoying every second of it, because I was on I was coaching on a 7-loss team, and it's like, oh my god, and it doesn't seem like it was that long ago. It's been 15 years almost. Nevada, your thoughts? Because again, I think that the new building will be substantial, and I think it's going to be excellent. And you know, I've always been frustrated, and so have people in the Woody Hayes that I talk to, about the fact that we've built new facilities, I think, for every other sport in the last 15 years. I mean, Gene's been there since 2005. So it's like in the last 20 years, new basketball facility, new wrestling, Cavalli Center, new field hockey arena, new, it's like a boathouse for the club team, the crew team. I'm just like, at some point, man, you got to build they built a whole new facility for baseball and softball and the Shoemaker Center. And again, the Shoemaker Center is great because, I know the Shoemakers well. So great building, but I'm just telling you, man, it's like the football building needs to be upgraded in a bad way. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I think it was borderline malpractice that Gene didn't address that. I saw I'm not kidding you. I saw at least 10 different plans that he had for it over the years. None of them brought to fruition. None of them even really got off the drawing board. And I think it was probably his greatest failure at Ohio State, during his time there. And there were a lot. There were a lot of failures, but that was probably his greatest one was the failure to kind of adequately plan for that because he really was jumped off the shoulders of Andy Geiger, who had gone through a massive upgrade program of all the facilities, and he got the benefit of all that. The Schottenstein Center, the renovation to the stadium. I mean, all that stuff was started under Geiger, and then Gene just kind of wallowed in, kind of everything just hit the brakes, and now we've got real people in there doing the fundraising, and we'll get it off the line. So hey, I totally agree. We are definitely in the platinum age of Ohio State football. I'm not sure it's ever been better than it is right now. And the good news is, I really do think the best is yet to come. I think, um, we're getting to a point where our young head coach could be, the guy that just kind of dominates college football for the next 10, 15 years. And, and it starts in 2025. And we've already talked about how good we're going to be in 2026, which is absolutely scary, scary good. But yeah, can't wait. Very happy for what we have. And that was a very impressive press conference by Ross Bjork, and just glad he's here.
Yeah, like I mean, I can't even think about the triplet of Julian Sane, James Peoples, and Jeremiah Smith. Like how good that's going to be in 2 years. I mean, it's going to be good this year, but in 2 years, that's going to be as good as we've probably ever had. So I'm super excited about the growth and potential. But again, I like the progressive nature. I think that again with fundraising, Ross I thought was brilliant to bring Brian Schottenstein and Bill Lewis and some of these guys, Tommy Holland, some of these guys from the foundation are going to be added to, they're going to be part of this new group in like an advisory role. So, they're not, I mean, those guys are killing themselves. I mean, it's a lot of time and effort to go and fundraise constantly. And, when all of your rich friends, every time you call, they're thinking that they're asking for, another $1 million so that we could pay another transfer. It's like that gets a little exhausting. So I know that those guys are relieved, but they gained a lot of valuable intel during their 3 years of doing it, and I think that it's smart for Ross to lean on those guys because again, they've built contacts, they've built, when you're basically being salesmen and raising money and capital, like I mean, you could kind of give Ross a lot of valuable intel, and along with the people that are going to be doing the fundraising. So I think that that's the most important part because I mean, fundraising is tough. Like, I mean, I'm telling you, it's completely abnormal, especially given there's you look at a lot of the stuff going on in the world, uncertainty in the economy, tariffs, whatever you want to talk about. Again, I don't want to get the political thing, but it's hard to ask people for money right now when when people are they don't know what's going on, and so for us to break records, it speaks to the strength of our athletic department now, and specifically Ross Bjork, because he's the head of the tip of the spear. Because when you're the athletic director, your job is to be the lead fundraiser for the athletic department. That's your job. All the other stuff is great, but you have to bring in the bacon. And, again, it's not always fun. It's cool as it sounds like it would be to be the athletic director and have that title. Like when you're sitting in your suite and you're hosting, 10 of the most, 5 of the most powerful donors and their wives, and they're sitting with you and you watch us, soil the buoy versus Michigan at home when we're, 28-point favorites or whatever it was. Like that isn't fun. So, then to rebound and get everybody excited again and go run through Tennessee and Oregon and Texas and win the Natty versus Notre Dame, then it's real fun. So, I mean, he's kind of experienced the two different euphorias of Ohio State, the down trod nature of when we lose to Michigan and then the euphoria of winning the Natty. So, but they got to capitalize on it because we still don't play another game till September. So you better keep riding this little winning streak as long as we can, and get ready to sit in that suite for the Texas game because all the hitters will be right back in their chairs for that one. So, to that, I got a couple of super chats. Any other thoughts before we get into these?
No, just yeah, it's look, it's a challenging environment to raise money, but no better situation to do that coming off the national championship. Well, Ohio State's built up a lot of equity, and I think for Ohio State, it's our time. I mean, it was Alabama's time for a long time, and I think it's now our time to dominate college football, and I think we're getting ready to do that.
Yeah, I agree. All right, RJ, appreciate you, my dude, RJ. Sorry, the Pink Floyd piano cover artist. And while we are on our YouTube page, follow Palooza. Make sure you go follow RJ. He's got great covers of The Dark Side of the Moon, which is one of the great albums in the history of mankind. Appreciate you, my dude. Thanks for the 10. Pepper Johnson excelled at Ohio State and in the NFL. He won 2 Super Bowl rings as a player and 3 as an assistant coach. He's not coaching now. Should OSU consider hiring him in the future? Nevada OH.
I oh.
I'll let you go first on this one because I mean, Pepper's more from your era than mine, but I obviously played with Deontay. Deontay and I were captains together. That's his son. But what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, look, I would love to have Pepper. I mean, Pepper Johnson, in my opinion, made up the core of the greatest inside linebacking core in college football history when it was Pepper Johnson and Chris Spielman there on the inside. Those were two inside linebackers. Those are two pretty good inside linebackers. And man, he was a beast. He was a beast in college. He was a beast in the NFL. I would love to have him bring. I don't know how interested he is in terms of doing that, but if he was. Yeah, I'd love everything about having him part of the program. He brings back the best memories for me of Ohio State. That was a fun time to watch Ohio State football, and he was certainly one of the war daddies. So yeah, I'd love to have him part of the staff.
Well, here's kind of the up and down to Pepper. And again, I loved Pepper when he played for the Browns, and I played Madden 95 and 96. He was like incredible in that game. So I still have fond memories of Pepper. Um, my issue with him, and this isn't a total negative because we just hired Matt Patricia, is that he's never coached in college. I had to look. His last coaching job was with the Tampa Bay Bandits, which I don't know if that's an XFL or UFL or whatever. He was the defensive coordinator D line. He was the head coach at IMG in 2021. So it would be interesting. I mean, he's been a coordinator for a lot of D line coaching, which would be interesting, just because everyone's worried about Larry Johnson's advanced age. But the fact that he's not coaching anywhere, I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing when he's been coaching since 2000. I mean, he was with the Patriots for literally 14 years. And then he went on to the Buffalo Bills as D-line coach, and then he went to the Jets as D-line coach. So I mean, he was with Belichick for 14 years. So I would think there'd be some, overlap with Matt Patricia, which would make sense. I'd love to bring him in. This is the great thing about the position that Ryan's in right now, is that he has the ability to bring a guy in as an analyst and pay him like real money. You can pay him 50 grand, 100 grand, which again, that takes the commitment from the department to do that. But like, I would love to have Pepper Johnson around and in the building. Now, I don't know if he wants to do that, but I would imagine, if he's coaching the Tampa Bay Bandits, like they're probably not paying top dollar for an XFL or UFL team. But I think it's more about staying in the game. Again, Taver Johnson's back, and I've always loved Taver Johnson. He was a position coach when I played there, and I'm happy he's back in the building as an analyst. And again, with the expansion of the coaching staffs to where the fact that every guy on the field can coach now, that analyst job is a million times more appealing. Because again, I was going back way back machine, but like when I coached and I was a quality control coach my first year, I was not legally allowed to coach. And again, with Tress and with our compliance department being in the building, like I couldn't coach. I could run the scout team, but I couldn't like go out and coach Jack Mehort or Mike Adams, and and I would get yelled at constantly because I'd see something and give them a correction, and that technically wasn't totally kosher. So it's like, but in the SEC, every QC is coaching their balls off, and then up here, it's like I had to stand on the sideline with a clipboard, and it was or my script, and it sucked. So I mean, the being like one of the ancillary coaches now is basically like you're the same thing. You just can't go on the road and recruit. Which honestly, if you said Kirk, like, would there ever be a job if you retired and wanted to coach? Like, I'd be like, yeah, I'll be an analyst because to not have to go on the road and recruit is a billion times better than now. Obviously, the guys that are recruiting, they're making much more. They're making. I mean, Tyler Bowen's probably making $1 million coach the line this year, and those other guys are making 250. But to not have to go on the road and recruit would be stupendous because the whole month of May you're not sleeping at a million different Hiltons and getting at the airplane, dropping your rental car off and getting to your next Southwest Airlines flight, and it sounds fun for like maybe 3 days, but when you got to do it for a month straight, it's not very fun. So but yeah, like I like it. Like, I mean, I wouldn't mind if they brought Santonio back. I mean, Santonio's coaching, I think, at Central as a receivers coach, and you bring him in as a quality control coach because eventually Brian Hartline's going to leave, and would he take Devin Jordan with him? Is Devin good enough to run the room? I don't know. But I love having kind of a bullpen, and it's basically like you have like a farm system for all of your positions in case somebody leaves. Because if Marcus Johnson is excellent and Tyler Bowen, who to me has the makeup of being a future head coach, if he gets a head coaching offer this year and he takes it at Maryland or wherever, that's where he played at, and Ryan Day likes Marcus Johnson, he could just promote him from within because these guys are auditioning for their next job, not only with Ryan Day but with all of these potential coaches. Because this is, of all the staffs I've seen, and again, the staff I was on was one of the greatest ever because you have. We had Vrabel, who's obviously was coach of the year in the NFL. You have Fickle, who's the Wisconsin coach. You've got Tom Herman, who's the Texas coach. You had all these young. Stan Drayton was a head coach. He's at Penn State now. You've got this whole Everett Withers was a head coach. Like, we had a ton of head coaches on this stuff. They need assistants. So again, like if you're, Marcus Johnson, one of these guys, if Brian Hartline becomes a head coach next year, which again I'm not saying he's going to, and he needs a line coach. I mean, he's watching Charlie Dickey and Marcus Johnson every day and saying, yeah, I really like that guy. I want to take him with me and make him my full-time guy. And that's kind of the beauty of this extended staff now. And it's why Ohio State will never not have an incredible coaching staff because, I mean, guys that'll be head coaches, Keenan Bailey, Carlos Loughlin, Brian Hartline, Tyler Bowen. I think Larry's too long of a tooth. James Lawrence will be 1,000,000% be a head coach. Matt Guerrero will be a head coach. Tim Walton, I don't know if he wants to do it. Probably could be. Again, it's and I think Matt Patricia will be a head coach again. So those are all guys that potentially need to hire a young line coach or young receivers coach or assistant running backs coach, and that's why every position has two coaches now. I mean, Larry Johnson's kid is the assistant line coach, so it's fun because like every day is a job audition when you're in that spot. But that's a great question, and I'd love to have Pepper back. Nick Ma, thanks for the 10. I'm not sure I like the cap. Schools will follow and others will not, much like before the no rule era we're in now. I know the SEC and ESPN promote it. Your thoughts? Nevada, I'll go first on that.
No, I mean, look, you can always be afraid of. I don't think. I think bagmen were completely relevant when players could get no money, and I think then when you could wave 50,000, $100,000 around, that they became relevant. But now in an era where players can legitimately get $750,000, $1 million, a million and a half, whatever it is, I think the bagmen if you're going less and less relevant. I also think the enforcement, the way that they're going to set up enforcement, it's going to be it's going to be severe. I mean, you can circumvent salary cap rules in the NFL or in the NBA or the NHL right now if you wanted to. The problem is if you get caught, you get hammered into the oblivion, so people don't do it. And I think the same thing will ultimately be true in college football. So yeah, I mean, there's always going to be concerns about stuff like that, but um, I think when you're able to pay guys something, $500 handshakes become less a part of the environment and become less meaningful.
Yeah, I think that it's all in the enforcement, because if you say that you'll punish the kid and you'll punish the team and it'll be so severe, again, it's like in, countries where there's Sharia law, and if you get caught stealing something, they chop your hand off. Like, that's way different than if you're in some states and you're just allowed to just go home and take the stuff with you, and they got to pay for the shipping and handling or something. It's just like a different law. So if the punishment's severe, no one's going to do it. And again, like, you're right, because when kids were dead broke, like, when I played, and don't cry for me, this isn't me crying. Like, I don't care, because I mean, I was fine. I had a blast in college, and there was nothing I ever needed in college. I survived. Would it have been nice to have more money? Sure. But, you just adjust to where you're at in life. And I had a great time. Wouldn't change it for the world. And so, but I had teammates that had kids, and I had some teammates that had 2 and 3 kids. And I have 3 kids right now. And, I mean, I don't know how they did it. I can guess how they did it. I don't want to guess how they did it, but it's just like, when there's certain issues in life, mom can't make rent, the 2 babies, like whatever, like, it's different. So now, like with NIL, these kids, they've got money, so they can support themselves and support their families. And I know a lot of these guys send their money back to their folks, so that they can, live a little bit more comfortably. So it's, I think that it's not going to be as significant. And I think that the punishment is going to be structured as to, if they catch you, jacking money, then all of a sudden it's going to be bad. It'll be bad for the donors, be bad for everybody. So, but I think that this had to happen. Like, I didn't think NIL was sustainable, at the current rate, and the gross wages that some guys are getting paid, that I just laugh as hard as I can at. So, I think it'll be good, and I know Ohio State will adjust to it, and I think that this will be a good thing for college football, in my opinion. Armando Pena, how are you? All right. Thanks for the 5. What does the University of Michigan know? Their GM just extended, and they're just a few key 2026 recruits, jumping them to the number 15 ranking. Well, I mean, they're going to be business as usual until they're told not to, or until they get smoked and they get crushed by the hammer. Again, I worked for Jim Tressel in the middle of a situation that had the Sports Illustrated article coming out and all kinds of rumors and media outside our building every day. And yeah, I mean, it was completely insane what they did during Tattoo Gate. It was, I mean, you would have thought it was the O.J. Simpson trial by how it was covered by not just our local media, but the national media was staked out and camped out, and it was nuts. But, Michigan's just going to do business as usual, and, they're going to say what they're going to say. And again, but, in 30 to 90 days, man, that tune's going to be dramatically different, and those recruits aren't going to stick very long. Nevada, your thoughts? What does Michigan know? And they jumped up to number 15 in the rankings. What are your thoughts?
Okay, first of all, the GM's just taking a job. He doesn't care. GM's going to get paid. That's why he signed his contract. Players have an immediate right to transfer portal out, so they're at no risk in terms of being handled there. And I'm sure Michigan's telling them the story about, oh, this is going to be nothing, blah 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 blah. And as for Michigan knowing anything, I mean, Urban Meyer got hired to Ohio State and didn't know that we were going to get a bowl ban. So if Urban Meyer didn't know they're going to get a bowl ban, what do you think the GM at Michigan knows? And the fact that they jumped all the way up to 15, if we were 15 in the recruiting rankings right now, the title of this show would be called Massive Fire Going On at Ohio State as Ohio State fans stormed the building and burned down the entire institution. I mean, 15? Come on. I mean, their recruiting sucks. Everything about that program right now is circling the drain. And I mean, 15, we're celebrating that they landed a couple of kids and they got the 15. Like, please, no, they don't know anything. It's in front of a jury right now. The jury is going to issue their verdict, then we'll all know. And then but the idea that Michigan has some special insight into this because of the GM signing a contract, no, no, absolutely meaningless.
Yeah, and I'm going to read a quote. The decision that we made relative to our NCAA case, we made to the best of our abilities with the information that was in front of us. I'm not into speculating positions in life. I'm just not one of those guys relative to those kinds of what if scenarios. That was made by Gene Smith in 2012 when we were. That was literally right after the. That was right after the Michigan game. So there's an November 19th, 2012. Title of the article: OSU won't play the what if game. And again, Gene, there are people in the NCAA like Gene, and I'm sure they were trying to give him kind of the spread of scenarios and punishments, and just trying to do as much diligence as you can, because again, the game that we played in 2011 was the dumbest bowl game of all time. The team didn't want to play in it. The coaches didn't want to coach in it, and we still fought and did the best we could. But it was like, when you have a coaching staff that is fired, I mean, it was terrible. Like, I mean, the bowl trip sucked. It was terrible. And I'm like, why are we here? The seniors didn't want to play in the game. Because again, they played in the Sugar Bowl the year before and beat Arkansas. Now we're playing. We're 6-6 playing in a bowl game versus a 6-6 Florida team, and Will Muschamp wasn't a great coach, but I mean, they were kind of trending in the right direction. Not the right direction, but they were at least back next year. Like when I'm sitting in, a staff meeting room and Jim Bowman's fired and Doc Trustle's fired and they're trying to find jobs and they're trying to figure out when their benefits end, and and Mike Brewster and those guys who had a great run. I mean, they beat Oregon 2 years prior, they beat Arkansas. And then all of a sudden, we're playing in this stupid, Urban Meyer's out at our practice every day, evaluating us and evaluating the coaches. And he told me I was getting retained. So, I mean, it's awesome. I got retained. I couldn't wait to work for Urban Meyer just because when you're on the wrong side of Urban Meyer, it's not fun. Like when we got demolished by Florida. So I kind of got to learn the tricks of the trade as to how to run a program his way, which is awesome. But, I was retained. Stan Drayton was retained. I was retained. Vrabel was retained, Fickle was retained, and then like everyone, like Jim Haycock was gone, Tabor was retained, and he actually left after like a week or 2 weeks, and they brought in Bill Sheridan, who was there for 2 weeks, and he left. And then we brought in Kerry Combs, and Paul Haynes was gone. So it was just like this, and I was like, and like I'll never forgive him for like having us playing that game. And then the next year we're undefeated.
Kirk, let me read you he says here, he goes, at the time we made the decision, we felt confident that we would not receive a bowl ban, Smith said. Obviously, when we received it, we were shocked and devastated. It's like, I mean, that's what happens. So, no, does Michigan know what's going on? No, Michigan. Gene Smith was the head of the selection committee. I mean, he was considered like the ultimate NCAA insider,
Well,
and he was shocked and devastated by the thing in terms of doing it. So, come on, let's
I
get
mean,
real.
he was the head of the basketball March Madness committee and the football playoff committee when there was a 14 playoff. So it's like, I mean, this isn't like it's some amateur, but that was the definition of amateur hour, because again, there's nothing worse than when, when you find out who's getting retained and who's gone, and then you got to hang out with them for like a full month getting ready for bowl prep. And I mean, hell, we weren't even in our office. I mean, Urban and Pantoni and Voltolini, they moved into our damn office. So like we were in like the position meeting rooms doing our normal game prep. And again, that's their right. Again, Urban Meyer's, he's the dude now, so he can do whatever he wants. I mean, he's in the big office and Luke isn't anymore. And again, that was his right. They wanted to get started and evaluate the roster, and God bless them. They did a great job, and they turned us around and went 12-0 the next year. But I was like, what? I mean, because if after the Michigan loss, they just cancel the season, then all those coaches clear out of the building and they're gone. And honestly, like Urban could have got rolling even quicker. I mean, you'd lose those bowl practices, but I couldn't imagine what it was like being like Mike Brewster and like you got to get coached by Jim Bowman, who's defunct, or even worse, the younger guys like Jack Mewhort and Corey Lindsley. Like, I mean, that the line coach is gone, so it's I mean, it's just a weird scenario, but yeah, it costs us, because I don't think we would have gotten a bowl ban in 12 if we took one in 11. Again, we already fired Jim Tressel, and we sent Terrell Pryor to Siberia, so it's like, and we suspended like 7 different guys, like 10 different times. I mean, it was like every day that was Solomon Thomas is suspended again, or Marcus Hall suspended, or I mean, Boom Heron suspended, Devere suspended for 8 games playing scout team. I was like, can this season please end for the love of God? And then we play that bowl game was just the worst. Oh my God. No way 87, thanks for the deuce. Appreciate you, my dude. It says, sorry if I missed any update on Luke Wafel. I don't have anything other than Funky thinks it's trending great, and Funky's our lead insider for recruiting right now. Nevada, what are your thoughts on Luke Wafel? Because he is a stud of a player.
Yeah, Ohio State really, I mean, they think they're in the pole position, and this is something that could break at any time for the Buckeyes. And but the last time I talked to them, which is just the last couple hours ago, they're very, very bullish on their chances with Luke, and I think they're going to get him.
Yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't come. I mean, to me, man, it's like you want to talk about a depth chart that needs ends. I mean, look at what I mean. You're walking into the two seniors are going to be gone. Bo Atkinson will be back, but it's like it's a very appetizing depth chart, and I'm sure they'll go after it in the portal again. But that's a kid that could play as a freshman easily. He's a big physical kid. Love his tape. I think he'd be a great Buckeye. And again, when you combine the fact that we've got the highest APR in history, most loaded roster, in the country. And again, I'm just saying this because this is what we're told a lot. The faith thing is huge. That's great. Parents love that. The kids love that. Big city, a lot of Fortune 1000 companies, which Ross talked about today. Again, if you're looking for NIL deals and you go to a college town, Tuscaloosa, there's just not as many opportunities for companies to sponsor you. There's just not. So there's only so many car dealers in Tuscaloosa that can hand out Hellcats and Chargers. So I don't know. I think that it's trending nicely, and again, I think that he'd be a great add to the culture and to Ohio State. All right, Nevada, you can wrap this thing up as the Panthers are rolling right now. Any thoughts?
No, just going to be a huge recruiting weekend for Ohio State, a one in a series, but there's going to be recruits that could be breaking any second now. So stay tuned, and we'll have it all here for you. And like I said, you like this show, come join us at BuckeyeScoop.com. We're
Yes.
keeping it going, and definitely subscribe to our channels both on YouTube and on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts, all free.
Oh.
But it definitely helps us out. So thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, and our recruiting team is just absolutely smashing it right now. And the Buckeye boys and they're on our site too a lot, and it's absolutely awesome. So you're not going to find better recruiting coverage anywhere, and it's been incredible how deadly accurate they've been. So as always, if you guys enjoy our content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Another great show. Again, I appreciate you guys for always being a part of what we do. Again, this is it's been an incredible run, and I appreciate you guys so very much for what you guys have done and what we are doing on Buckeye Scoop, BuckeyeScoop.com. The gear, I believe, will all be shipped out by tomorrow. So those of you guys that ordered gear, we appreciate that. This is our biggest gear drop we've ever done. And I talked to our supplier. Again, I'm not a t-shirt guy. He is. He says that he's hoping that it all gets shipped tomorrow. Again, I appreciate your patience. The gear looks spectacular. I can't wait to see it. But I appreciate you guys so very much for all that you guys do. Again, give us a follow on Apple Podcasts. It's right inside your iPhone, your iPad. Super easy to do. And it's a big help for us. So with that being said, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. And thank you, Scoop family. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Go Bucks.